Hey, the end of the last week, Friday, it ended with a bang in this case. Lots of drama. The defendant took the stand, and I've got all the skinny on that for you today. Yeah, lots to get to. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Rebecca. This is Crafting and Crime Daily, the show where I recap live trials that are going on YouTube. Currently, we're covering the trial of the state of Florida versus Ashley Benefield. This is a case out of Bradenton, Florida, which is a small town. I don't know if it's small anymore. It used to be a small town north of Tampa on the west coast of Florida. And before we get to her testimony, the defendant testified. Yeah. I'll show you what I've been working on. The Louvre. I know. I haven't gotten the triangle, the pyramid done. I haven't started on the pyramid, but I'm almost to that point. I'm still just working on the layering back in here. It looks pretty cool. Thousands of pieces. Thousands of tiny pieces. Yeah. I'm having fun. Does it look like I really do? I really do enjoy this. All right, so let's get to this testimony. So she's got her hair down, minimal makeup, obviously no mascara because, you know, the drama's coming. So her attorneys, he's handling her with kid gloves. They start off by talking about how she was raised with family values, which includes the importance of kindness, compassion, hard work, and accountability. Then she said, he was like, do you have any siblings? She's like, no, I grew up an only child. And then he starts asking her questions about school. And the judge is like, okay, we're not going to go through the entire history of this woman. Okay, let's just move along. So she was asked why she stopped no longer doing ballet professionally. And she said that she tore her hamstring. That kind of ended her career. How sad. Work your whole life and, oh, yeah, I know. So she meets Doug on August 25th of 2016. She thought he was funny and smart and charming. Prince Charming comes to this political event. She meets him. He told her she was a naval aviator. He was, did I say that right? He told her he was a naval aviator like her dad. So she's like, oh, this guy's perfect. I'm being facetious. Fast forward, day of the murder. We're going to talk about the day of the murder. He came over to help that day because her and her mom had staged some of the larger items that they were moving to Maryland with in the garage. And he was going to help load up those larger items. And they did have a discussion about, you know, how this packing was going to go, and her things were going to go in last because they would be dropped off at her place and then the rest would go to his place. Now, when she got into the truck that morning, she actually gets up and gets in there. She's seeing things are like mixed together. Now, I imagine what he was doing was like, you know, it's a U-Haul. You got to take up every little inch, you know, because, or you're going to run out of room. So he's like probably carefully blocking everything. So she's upset because, oh, all the stuff is getting mixed in together. And he says, you know, you need to start acting like a wife. This is what she says. He said to her, there's no your stuff, my stuff. It's our stuff. So she said he started getting upset, aggressive, and threatening. So she suggested, she said, you know, let's just not do this. Let's, you know, I don't want to do this right now. You know, I'm tired. Let's just wrap this up. Let's just wrap it up. And then he body checks her. This is her words, not mine. And then she goes in to her room. Now, where almost everything's packed up, but on top of a laundry basket in a storage box, she takes out her gun. At that point, he's standing at the door, and listen, I'm just going to let her tell the rest of the story because this is where the drama begins. Yeah.
I want to direct your attention, Ashley, now, if I can, to the day of the homicide, September 27, 2020.
Okay.
Specifically late in the afternoon. Would you tell us why Doug was at your home?
He came over to help load some of the larger items that my mom and I had kind of pre-staged in the garage into the U-Haul truck.
And were there any discussions between the two of you about the order that these things should be placed in the back of the truck?
Yes, we had discussed that my things would be going in last, right at the front, so they would be easy to get out first. At one point, he had me help him load one of the larger pieces into the back of the U-Haul truck. And when I was up in the truck with him, I realized that everything had been all like mixed together and it was no longer separated. And I pointed that out to him, and he got really offended and upset. He said, "It shouldn't be your stuff, your house, my house."
Was there a particular demand he made at that time?
He said I needed to start acting like a wife.
Tell us at that point how you chose to deal with him.
I tried to change the subject. I could see how upset he was getting. So I wanted to kind of alleviate that.
And how was Doug reacting to your efforts to do that?
He was getting more upset and aggressive and threatening.
Do you attempt to avoid confrontation with him?
Yes.
What do?
I was trying to get him to leave. I kept suggesting that maybe we should be done, saying I was tired. We should just wrap it up for the day.
And what was Doug's reaction to that effort?
He heard me, but he completely disregarded what I was saying.
Ashley, would you tell us if there came a time shortly thereafter where there was physical contact between the two of you?
Yes.
Tell us about it.
We were in the living room, and as he came up to me, instead of walking past me, he walked like right into me, like a body check. He like bumped me.
His shoulder to your shoulder?
Yes.
And describe for us, if you can, the force of the bump.
It caught me off guard. I almost fell. I like stumbled.
How was he acting at that point?
He was clearly hostile. He was mumbling under his breath and was glaring at me.
What was your concern?
I could see that it was escalating, and I didn't want him to blow up at me.
Was there a second instance of physical contact?
Yes.
Tell us about that, please.
We were in the garage, and it was very much like the living room. I had just suggested strongly that I wanted to be done for the day. And he, as he came up to me, he walked right into me. Again, body checked me.
Finally, was there a third instance of contact?
Yes.
What happened?
We were in the hallway, and we were coming opposite directions towards each other, and he had a box. And as he walked up to me, he looked me in the eye, and he drove the corner of the box up into me.
Where?
My side.
indicating on your right side,
Yes, sir.
in the hip area.
Yes, sir.
What was the result of that?
Scratching. It burned.
Moment, Ron.
Yes, sir.
Ashley, I'm going to hand you what's been marked as defense exhibit numbers 8, 9, and 10. Approach.
Yeah, just do me a favor. Whenever you're holding them up, they were facing the jury until they're admitted.
Sorry.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. 8, 9, and 10.
Yes, sir. Will you tell us what exhibit 8 represents, Ashley?
It's a scratch right here.
And was that scratch caused by the cardboard box that you just related?
Yes, sir.
When was that photograph taken?
The night of September 27th, 2020 at the sheriff's office.
Okay, and how about exhibit number 9?
Also scratches on my side.
From the same incident?
Yes, sir.
Also taken that evening at the sheriff's office?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and exhibit 10?
The same scratches as in 9. They're just, it's a close-up.
Do these photographs, Ashley, truly and accurately reflect the scratches and bruises you received on late that afternoon on September 27, 2020?
Yes.
Do they accurately reflect how the scratches looked when they were fresh?
Yes.
Thank you. I move respectfully, Your Honor, defense exhibits 8, 9, and 10 into evidence.
Any objection?
No.
They'll be received.
What was your response, Ashley, after being struck by the cardboard box?
I apologized.
Why would you have apologized?
Because I could see how upset he was, and I didn't want him to get more mad at me.
Doug go after that incident?
He continued to the garage with the box.
And what happens at that point?
We started getting into a back and forth about being done for the day and what still needed to be packed and that I wanted to be done. And we ended up in our daughter's bedroom, and he started screaming at me. He said, "Shut the fuck up." He started calling me names. And he said, "I can see what you're doing. You're trying to get me to leave." He said, "I don't have to leave. I can stay and spend the night if I want to because I'm your husband."
At that point, Ashley, how did you feel with respect to your own personal safety?
I was scared.
Did you take any steps to try to avoid anything further?
Yes, I ran to try to leave the house
And where did you run to?
to the front door.
Did you make it?
No,
Tell us what happened.
he stopped me. He grabbed me by the hand and he yanked me back. I'm not really sure how he did it, but he spun around so he was in front of me, between me and the door.
So
He said,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
"Where the fuck do you think you're going?"
What was your response? Do you specifically recall? Tell us.
I just blurted it out. I said, I'm done and you need to leave now.
What was Doug's reaction to that command to leave now?
He said, you can't fucking leave me.
Then what happens?
He hit me on the side of the head.
Ashley, I'm going to. It's been marked as defendant's exhibit number 7. Tell us what that represents.
It's a picture of my face.
Is it an accurate picture of what your face looked like on that night?
Yes, sir.
Who took that photograph?
I don't remember her name. She was at the sheriff's office.
At the sheriff's office? Okay. Now, what is it about that photograph that shows or reflects the slap or the hit that you got to the side of your head by Doug?
That side of my face is like swollen and puffy and discolored around my eye.
And is your eyelid drooping
Yes,
on the side where you were hit?
yes.
Your Honor, I move defense exhibit number 7 into evidence.
Received.
What was different at that moment, Ashley, than at any time in your prior relationship with Doug?
He had never actually hit me before.
What did you do?
I ran
Where?
to my room
Why?
because I was scared.
Ashley, did you have anything in your room that could protect you?
I had my gun.
Did you grab the gun?
Yes.
As you're grabbing the gun, what, if anything, did you hear?
I heard the door hitting the doorstop.
As if it is open?
Yes.
And what do you see, Ashley, when you look up?
Doug was standing in the doorway. His face was red. Like the veins were bulging in his neck. The way he was looking at me, it didn't even look like Doug. His eyes were.
Did he yell anything at you?
He said, "You're fucking done."
And what does he do at that point?
I held the gun like in front of me and I said, "Stop." And he like turned and he got into this like a fighting stance. I got low and he started like moving his arms and his hands around. And he was making these like jerking motions.
What were you expecting when you were holding the gun out in front of you and you told him to stop?
I thought when he saw it, he would leave.
Did he?
No.
At that point, Ashley, what are you thinking?
I thought he was going to kill me.
Tell us what happens next.
He started coming towards me, and then he lunged at me, and I started pulling the trigger. And he just kept coming. And I remember trying to move to get away from him, but he kept coming at me.
Ashley, would you tell us why, if you're holding a loaded firearm, you were attempting to move away?
I was trying to get away from him. I was terrified.
All right, so you're firing. He keeps advancing. What happens next?
It was like his feet slipped out from under him and his legs went up in the air.
When Doug hits the floor, what's your immediate reaction?
I ran to get help.
Can you tell us how many shots you fired?
I have no idea. I was in a panic.
Do you remember anything about the shooting beyond what you've told us here?
It was a blur.
Where did you run for help, Ashley?
To my neighbor's house.
What's your neighbor's name?
John Sant.
Ashley, I have to ask you a couple of very difficult questions. You okay?
Yeah, sorry.
Ashley, tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury why you shot Doug.
I was scared to death. I thought he was gonna kill me. But there was nowhere to go. I was trapped in my own house. He wouldn't let me leave.
As you sit here today, Ashley, how do you feel about what happened?
Horrible. He's my child. Someday you have to explain it all to her.
Judge, I wonder, could we have a minute, maybe a brief recess, have her compose herself?
All right. Members of the jury, if you could step out for a couple of minutes, we'll bring you right back. Just leave your notes where they are.
So, what you think of that? Hold on, let me get my tissues. Now, I don't know about you, but when I cry, you're gonna know I cried. Snot's gonna be coming out of my nose. My face is all red and blotchy. The glasses are off. My mascara's running. I don't see nothing on her. Not even a tear. Me, oh my God, my face is streaked. I mean, I look like crap when I cry. Now, I realize not everybody ugly cries like I do, but there's no tears. No tears. And she kind of just shuts it off. That's these convenient times during the rest of her direct testimony. When her attorney starts asking her questions, she'll look up and she'll answer the question. No more drama. It was just weird how she would shut it on and shut it off. So then there's this, her defense attorney, Mr. Taylor, is trying to get this letter in front of the jury, because at the point she moved to Florida, she was pregnant, but at some point she returns to South Carolina where he's living and running their ballet, and she leaves him a letter in their house, and then she takes all of her stuff and goes back to Florida. But the judge is not letting the contents of this letter in. So he's letting her attorney know she can talk about how she felt when she wrote the letter, but the letter's not coming in. So he shows her the letter. He says, does this refresh, because she says, I don't remember everything I wrote in the letter. So he shows her the letter. Does this refresh your recollection? She's like, well, yeah. So then well, what did you say in the letter? Nope, that's not coming in. We're not reading the letter. So, how did you feel when you wrote this letter? Why did you write this letter? Because I was scared for the baby. Um, she thought he might throw things at her. He used to break things. He was manipulative. He was possessive. He was controlling. He was unpredictable. This is why she wrote this letter. Now, all of this, the pregnancy came after this. She always talks about this incident where that she shot into the ceiling, and we're going to hear that, where he shot the gun into the ceiling. We're going to hear what prompted that. This all came before she gets pregnant. Yeah, more on that later. So after she's pregnant, now she's thinking the worst. She's scared because of this incident. So then she talks about how when she returned to South Carolina to get her things, she filed for an injunction, a restraining order, and she got one against him. So she goes back to Florida, and she gets a birthday present from him. It turns out to be a tea set. But when she opened the package, there was a very strong odor. Chemical smell is how she put it. So she repackages everything and then sticks it in the garage for a period of time. We don't know how long. And then goes and gets it one day and takes it to the police to say that he violated the restraining order, and there's a smell of something chemical in there. Yeah. It was a tea set. There was nothing, there was no chemicals in there. Anyway. So she was asked, why did you get a restraining order in Florida? She says, because the restraining order she got in South Carolina was only good for 6 months, and it was getting ready to expire, and she wanted to have one in place. But at the time she's asking for this restraining order in Florida, Doug has not been violent towards her. She's seeing him. She's letting him visit her baby. Yeah. Anyway. Then she talks about, because I wrote down every time she'd accuse him of something. She said one time he trapped her in a closet. One time he threw the cat. Now, I got to tell you, this is the straw that breaks the camel's back with me. You throw my cat, man, you're in big trouble. First of all, my cat will come get you. He'll come back. Anyway. So then she said there was an incident where her and her mom came home in Florida, and Doug was in the driveway, and then he ran, and she had to call the police several times before they actually came out. Well, we're going to hear what really happened in the driveway. So then there's Cress. Oh, then the final thing was he asked, Mr. Taylor asked his client, did you do any Google searches on how to co-parent? And she said yes. And he asked her, what was the search that you did? She said, how to co-parent with an abuser. Okay. So cross-examination. She was asked, did Doug ever hit you? No. Did he ever punch you? No. Did he ever kick you? No. Did he ever threaten you with a weapon? Yes, the gun. You said he was waving the gun around. Well, he was waving it around at me, she says. Oh, okay. But no, nothing else. No, nothing else. So then she talks about this. She was looking forward to being Eva Benefield's stepmother, even though she's like 9 years older than her. She was looking forward to being her stepmom. So she makes her a shadow box. She buys a shadow box and she makes something, I don't know what it was, commemorative of her mom, and she puts it in there. And Eva takes the box, takes it apart, and puts a rose that her mom gave it in there. And Ashley was sobbing about this. Like, she just thought it was so disrespectful. She's like weeping because this, Doug, she made her some, did you took apart the shadow box? She says, if she told me I wanted to put a rose, I would have bought her another shadow box. But this is what prompts this gun incident, because she's going on and on about this shadow box and she's sobbing and screeching. I remember the detective saying that the screech that came out of her mouth one time was beyond description. And this is what prompted Doug to fire the gun into the ceiling. Anyway, but just weeks after this, they go forward with a wedding reception. Now, they were already married, but they have this big wedding reception planned. And the attorney asked her, so this is in the time where Doug, you're terrified of Doug? You're living a nightmare? She goes, well, that was a good day. Okay. And they show pictures and she looks beautiful. This is a beautiful woman. No doubt about it. This is a beautiful woman. Then, with respect to the driveway incident, she said what actually happened was when they got home, her neighbor said to her, I saw a man looking in the windows, and described him and wearing a baseball cap, and Doug frequently wore a baseball cap, and the physical description seemed to be that of Doug. And he must have said something because the neighbor said she would recognize his voice if she heard it. So Ashley plays her cell phone message, a message from Doug, and the woman's like, oh yeah, that's him. That's the guy that was there. That's what actually happened. So she agreed that she never told him this whole time that they're planning this trip to Maryland. There's 200 plus back and forth instant messages over this long period of time about, getting them boxes and moving together and blah, blah, blah. She never tells him that she has no intention of moving in with him. Even when they're with the psychologist or the therapist, they were seeing both. One was doing a report, one was doing therapy, which you would think is a safe space. Like, if you're afraid, if you're not telling him because you're in fear that he might hurt you, well, while you're in front of a doctor or someone that's trying to help you, why wouldn't you express it then? Her answer to that was, I didn't want to embarrass him. All right. And then with respect to the abuse on the child, she said she had a regular doctor's appointment for the child. And at the end of the appointment, the doctor says, do you have any questions? She goes, well, she's been exhibiting this really weird behavior. I don't know what the behavior was. She didn't talk about it. And then she showed her a video of the daughter doing this behavior. And the doctor called CPS. And she says, you need to call CPS too. And that's why she called CPS. And yeah, I don't know what to make of that. I really didn't. So then she was asked, you were scheduled for this injunction hearing in 3 days. You're moving together. And if the injunction was granted, what was your plan? What was your plan going to be? Because now all of his stuff is in with yours. You've got an injunction against him. What was the plan? And she goes, I don't know. I guess I didn't think that one through. I don't know. I don't know what my plan was. So then she was asked to demonstrate what happened that day. Can you get off the stand and come down and demonstrate? And here is what occurred.
That you thought he was going to kill you.
He had never hit me before.
Okay. And you thought he was going to kill you.
He wouldn't let me leave. I tried to leave. He stopped me.
The question is, you thought he was going to kill you.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, when you were in the bedroom, you decided to get your firearm. And it was where?
It was in a storage bin on top of the laundry basket.
Okay. So I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 52. If you could turn around and look at that. Where was your firearm?
It was in the bin on top of the basket.
Here?
That's the basket. The laundry
Where was the
basket.
bin?
It's that right on top.
Okay, so it was in here.
Yes, ma'am.
Why would you have a firearm in there?
I had just emptied all the furniture and everything out of my room, and it was kind of like what was left from my drawers, and so it got put into a bin.
Okay, and that was not your only firearm in that room, correct?
Correct.
You had a firearm in the closet.
My carry gun was in my backpack, which is my purse at the time.
So in this room, with a mattress and a broom and a hamper, you had 2 firearms.
Yes.
So you go into the room and you grab your firearm. Is it in a holster?
I don't remember.
Okay. And you claim that Doug does what?
He came and slammed the door open. He was standing in the doorway. He said, "You're fucking done."
He said, "You're fucking done." And that made you fear for your life.
Yeah.
Can we turn the lights up, please? Thank you. So he says you're fucking done, and you point the gun and you shoot.
I held it out in front of me first so he could see it. And I said, "Stop."
Judge, if I could have her step down so she can demonstrate.
You may.
If you could just come down. So Doug opens the door and does what?
He was standing in the doorway, kind of like this. He said, "You're fucking done." And I held the gun out in front of me and said, "Stop." He got into this like fighting pose and he like turned sideways. And he was like moving around with his like arms in his hands. And he started like inching forward towards me.
So he why do you call it a fighting stance?
He looked like a fighter. I don't know, like a ninja or something, I don't know.
Okay, so he's standing there, he turns to like this and starts moving his arms around.
Like that.
Well, show me, what was he doing?
And like, I don't know, he got like this, and he was like making like fighting motions. I don't know, I'm not a fighter, I don't know.
Okay,
It was scary.
did he have his hands in fists?
Not at that point, they were like, I don't know.
Was he coming at you like this?
When he lunged at me, he came very quickly.
Okay, so he lunged, was his fist up when he
I
lunged?
don't remember.
So you start shooting, and he does what?
He kept coming at me.
Okay, so then you keep shooting again. And he falls down on his back.
His legs went up in the air.
Okay, where do his legs go?
In the air.
How high in the air?
I don't know.
Did they go over his head?
I don't know. It's like his feet slipped out.
Okay.
And his feet and his legs went up in the air.
And were you still shooting at the time?
I don't remember.
You can have a seat. So after this incident, you claim that you had swelling to your face, right?
It's going to take a minute. All right, members of the jury, can you please close up your notes, put them on your chairs. I'm going to ask you to step out for a minute. You can use the facilities. It's not quite our mid-afternoon break, but we'll treat it as such. Please don't discuss the case amongst yourselves. Don't discuss it with anybody outside the jury. Don't do any research like we've talked about. The jury's out. You can have a seat.
I'm sorry.
All right, we'll take 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Yes.